Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to be looking at Google's privacy policy. As we'll read here in a minute, this applies to most of the Google services you would interact with. This includes Google Chrome, Android, Google Home, Google Maps, Search, and yes, even YouTube. As is tradition, I want to set some expectations before we get started. We will be using the Privacy Visualizer tool that I came up with to help us better retain what we've already read. If you want to follow along, you can pull it up yourself by going to privacyvisualizer.com or by following the link in the description, which also has other related links to this policy reading. As a quick recap, we will use blue to represent data that is collected, yellow for shared data, and red for data that is sold. And we'll be using the definition of sold as described in the California Consumer Privacy Act, otherwise known as the CCPA. As we do in all the readings on this channel, we will be reading this with the assumption of worst case scenario. This means that if they mention some data is optional, we will treat it as if it were collected, shared, or sold, depending on the surrounding context. We're reading this from the perspective of someone who clicks yes on whatever pop-ups might come up. One exception will be for business-to-business things. Most businesses come up with their own contracts and policies, so it's not really relevant to the average person. Most people are not representing businesses, so we will ignore those sections if they come up. As a reminder, the purpose of the Privacy Visualizer is to help us retain what we've read. It is not meant to summarize what we've read to others. You'll see as we read along that it oversimplifies things too much and it doesn't give a full picture like this whole video would in its entirety. Please avoid using the Privacy Visualizer tool to summarize privacy policies. It is a tool designed to help you read privacy policies. If you want to learn more about that, check out the main channel video linked in the description. Let's jump down, go to google.com in our lovely little browser, and we're going to go down to the privacy button. And let's get started. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger just so it's easier for y'all to read. Okay, right at the top. When you use our services, you're trusting us with your information. We understand this is a big responsibility and work hard to protect your information and put you in control. This privacy policy is meant to help you understand what information we collect, why we collect it, and how you can update, manage, export, and delete your information. Privacy checkup. Looking to change your privacy settings? Take the privacy checkup. That's such a weird phrase, but that's right. At the very top of this privacy policy, they give you the tools to be able to manage your privacy settings, which is fantastic. If you didn't know that these settings existed, you can literally find it at the very top of their privacy policy. I am actually a huge fan of that. So this one is effective April 2nd, 2026. So it was just recently updated. And if we look at this one, we can look at all of the archived versions, which you can see that it is updated pretty frequently. Sometimes it being updated this frequently can be a red flag, but most of the time, and I believe this is really the case with Google's, they are just changing it to comply with the language that comes up in new privacy laws, but it is still something I do encourage you to look out for. They do keep it all up, which is great. So at least that, we have that going for us. They have the comparison so you can actually see exactly what changed. And actually, it's funny, when I originally wrote this, I was referencing the 25 December version. So like I said, it's very minor language adjustments for the most part, but that's cool. Not a lot of privacy policies do that. Google does generally do a good job at making this stuff super clear. So, and then of course they have a PDF download that you can snag as well, if that's your cup of tea. We're going to skip the table of contents. It's not really relevant. We know exactly what we're looking for, which is the entire thing. So we don't need that. Okay. We build a range of services that help millions of people daily to explore and interact with the world in new ways. Our services include Google Apps, sites, and devices like Search, YouTube, and Google Home, platforms like the Chrome browser and Android operating system, and products that are integrated into third-party apps and sites like ads, analytics, and embedded Google Maps. You can use our services in a variety of ways to manage your privacy. For example, you can sign up for a Google account if you want to create and manage contents like emails and photos, or see more relevant search results. And you can use many Google services when you're signed out without creating an account at all, like searching on Google or watching YouTube videos. You can also choose to browse the web in private mode, like Chrome Incognito mode, which helps keep your browsing private from other people who want to use your device. Across our services, you can adjust your privacy settings to control whether we collect some types of data and how we use it. To explain things as clear as possible, we've added examples, explanatory videos, and definitions for key terms. I love this key terms thing, and actually we'll see a better example of it here in a minute, but super cool, big fan of this key terms thing. And if you have any questions about this privacy policy, you can contact us, and then there's a way to do that. Okay. So information Google collects. We want you to understand the types of information we collect as you use our services. We collect information to better provide services for all of our users, from figuring out basic stuff like which language you speak, to more complex things of which ads you'll find most useful, and the people who matter most to you online. So let's look at that really quick, ads you find most useful. For example, if you watch videos about baking on YouTube, you may see more ads that relate to baking as you browse the web. We may also use your IP address to determine your approximate location. Okay, so right there, we can mark some stuff off. We got location and identifiers for IP address, so that we can serve you ads for a nearby pizza delivery service if you search for pizza. And then you can learn more about Google Ads and why you may see particular ads. And then for the people who matter to you most online, for example, when you type an address to the 2CC or BCC fields of an email you're composing, Gmail will suggest the addresses based on the people you contact most frequently. I would call that usage data, because that's how you use Gmail. Or which YouTube videos you might like. The information Google collects and how that information is used depends on how you use our services and how you manage your privacy controls. When you're not signed into a Google account, we store the information we collect with unique identifiers tied to the browser, application, or device you're using. Okay, let's see what unique identifiers are. Again, look at all of these very clear descriptions. And a unique identifier is a string of characters that can be used to uniquely identify a browser, app, or device. Different identifiers vary in how permanent they are, whether they can be reset by users, and how they can be accessed. I actually do want to show you guys something really cool. Cookie editor. Check this out. So Google puts these little strings, these little bits when you're browsing. It basically gives you an identifier that isn't like you. I'm not this random string of characters. I'm using Cookie Editor because it's a really great way to visualize how that works, which I haven't really been able to do in one of these videos before. So unique identifiers can be used for various purposes, including security and fraud detection, syncing services such as your email inbox, remembering your preferences, and providing personalized advertising. For example, unique identifiers stored in cookies help sites display content in your browser in your preferred language. You can configure your browser to refuse all cookies or indicate when a cookie is being sent. And then you can learn more about how Google uses cookies. On other platforms beside browsers, unique identifiers are used to recognize a specific device or app on that device. For example, a unique identifier such as an advertising ID will provide you relevant advertising on Android devices and can be managed in your device's settings. Unique identifiers may be incorporated into a device by its manufacturer, sometimes called a Universal Unique ID or UUID, such as the IMEI of a mobile phone. For example, a device's unique identifier can be used to customize their services to your device or analyze device issues related to our services. So we do already have identifiers there, but that would absolutely qualify with the definitions that we have here, which that's broken. I need to fix that. That's a later me problem. And then let's look at the device definition. So a device is a computer that can be used to access Google services. For example, desktop computers, tablets, smart speakers, and smartphones are all considered devices. This allows us to do things like maintain your preferences across browsing sessions, such as your preferred language or whether you show more relevant search results or ads based on your activity. When you're signed in, we may also collect information that we store with your Google account, which we treat as personal information. And here we go. Nice little definition here. Don't worry, these definitions do slow down. It's just at the very beginning, they're very dense. Personal information. This is information that you provide to us which personally identifies you, such as your name, email address, or billing information, or other data that can be reasonably linked to you, such as information by Google, such as your information we associate with your Google account. Again, I would consider that identifiers, but we're going to get into more specifics here. When you create a Google account, you provide us with personal information. As we can see, that's the same thing. And since we do have references to your name, email address, and billing information, we're going to call that financial and contact info for your name and email address, which is cool. That includes your name and password. You can also choose to add a phone number, which They again show here, if you add a phone number to your account, it could be used for different purposes across Google services depending on your settings. For example, your phone number can be used to help access your account if you forget your password, help people find and connect with you, and make the ads more relevant to you. So the help people find and connect with you, we're actually going to consider contacts because that is used as a way to link people together, using their services. So we will count that. Or payment information to your account. And again, for example, if you add a credit card or other payment information to your Google account, you can use it to buy things across our services like our apps in the Play Store. We may also ask for other information like a business tax ID to help process your payments. In some cases, we may also need to verify your identity and may ask you for your information to do this. We may use payment information to verify that you meet age requirements. For example, if you enter an incorrect birthday indicating you're not old enough to have a Google account. Even if you aren't signed into a Google account, you may choose to provide us with information, like an email address, to communicate with Google or to receive updates about our services. We also collect the content you create, upload, or receive from others when using our services. This includes things like emails you write, receive, photos and videos you save, docs and spreadsheets you create, and the comments you make on YouTube videos. So we're going to count that as user content, because you generated it. That's yours. Information we collect as you use our services, your apps, browsers, and devices. We collect information about the apps, browsers, and devices you use to access Google services, which helps us provide features like automatic product updates and dimming your screen if your battery runs low. Let's see here. For example, we can use information from your devices to help you decide which device you'd like to install an app or view a movie when you buy from Google Play. We also use this information to help protect your account. The information we collect includes unique identifiers, browser type and settings, device type, operating system, mobile network information, including carrier and phone number, and application version number. We also collect information about the interaction of your apps, browsers, and devices with our services, including IP address. We'll read that in a moment. Let me finish this sentence. Crash reports, we're going to mark that as diagnostics. System activity, the date and time, the refer URL, we'll get to that in a moment, of your request. So let's start with IP address. Every device connected to the internet is assigned a number known as an Internet Protocol address. These numbers are usually assigned in geographic blocks. An IP address can often be used to identify the location of which a device is connecting to the internet. And then the refer URL is information transmitted to a destination web page by a web browser, typically when you click a link to that page. The refer URL contains the URL of the last web page the browser visited. So technically, browsing data is that, because that sees the website that you came beforehand. We collect this information when a Google service on your device contacts our servers. For example, when you install an app from the Play Store, or when a service checks for automatic updates. If you're using an Android device with Google Apps, your device periodically contacts Google servers to provide information about your device connection to our services. And if we look at that, Android devices with Google Apps include devices sold by Google or by one of our partners and include phones, cameras, vehicles, wearables, and televisions. Really want to highlight that vehicles one. Ooh, how fun. These devices use Google Play services and other pre-installed apps that include services like Gmail, Maps, your phone's camera, and your phone's dialer, text-to-speech conversations, keyboard input, and security features. I think we're just going to count things like keyboard input, text-to-speech conversations, stuff like that. We'll throw that into other data because it doesn't really fit into, I guess that's sort of usage data. No, we'll sit on usage data for that for now. This information includes things like your device type and carrier name, crash reports, which apps you've installed, and depending on your device, other information about how you're using your Android device. So again, we got diagnostics in there. So your activity. We collect information about your activity in our services, which we use to do things like recommend a YouTube video you might like. The activity information we collect may include terms you search for. Well, there we go. Search terms. Look at that. We're getting there. Videos you watch. That's just usage data. Views and interactions with content and ads. So, for example, we collect information about views and interactions with ads so we can provide aggregated reports to advertisers, like telling them whether we served their ad on a page and whether that ad was likely seen by a viewer. We may also measure other interactions, such as how you move your mouse over an ad, or if you interact with the page on which the ad appears. Again, that really just kind of boils down to usage data for me. Voice and audio information. For example, you can choose whether you want Google to save audio recordings to your Google account when you interact with Google Search, Assistant, and Maps. I have all of my original recordings for when I was using like Google Home because it saved all of those interactions. Me saying this, right? When your device detects an audio activation command like "Hey G," I'm not going to say it in case some of you are listening on speakers. Google records your voice and audio plus a few seconds before the activation. When you request your data from Google and you've done this, that's a retrievable piece of information that you can just like listen to. It's super uncanny. So like the ones that I had recorded, they were from like 2016, 2017. Like they were really, really old recordings. I don't think we're going to count this as anything other than user content. But yeah, that one's fun. Purchase activity, so that's going to be your purchases. People with whom you communicate or share content, again, user content. Activity on third-party sites and apps that use our services, okay? Websites and apps that integrate Google services like ads and analytics share information with us. This information is shared regardless of which browser or browser mode you use. For example, although incognito mode in Chrome can help keep your browsing private from other people who use your device, third-party sites and apps that integrate our services will still share information with Google when you visit them. You can learn more about some of the ways you can control this information that is shared when you visit and interact with sites and apps that use Google services. And again, that same thing is linked at the very top of this policy. And then Chrome browsing history, if you've synced with your Google account, your Chrome browsing history is only saved to your account if you've enabled Chrome's synchronization with your Google account. If you use your services to make and receive calls or send and receive messages, we may collect call and message log information like your phone number, calling party number, receiving party number, forwarding numbers, sender and recipient email addresses, time and date of phone calls and messages, duration of calls, routing information, and types of volumes and call messages. Let's see what services could do that. So examples of these services include Google Voice for making and receiving calls, sending text messages, and managing voicemail, Google Meet for making and receiving video calls, Gmail for sending and receiving emails, Google Chat for sending and receiving chat messages, Google Duo for making and receiving video calls and sending and receiving messages, and Google Fi for a phone plan. That all definitely feels a good bit more than usage data to me, like a phone plan, for example, so we are going to populate other data for that. You can visit your Google account, and find and manage activity information that's saved by your activity controls, and again, that's that same thing that's linked at the top. Your location information. Ooh boy. We collect location information when you use our services, which helps us offer features like driving directions, search results for things near you, and ads based on your location. Depending on the products you're using and the settings you choose, Google may use different types of location information to make some services and products you use more helpful. GPS and other sensor data from your devices. So your device may have sensors that can be used to better understand location and movement. For example, an accelerometer can be used to determine your speed and gyroscope to figure out the direction of travel. So historically, we have marked that off as health data because that includes health data sensors, and accelerometers are like super common for things like pedometers in your phone. Because Google does have their own health stuff later on, like if we search for health. So there is references to health data later on. So location information, here we go. So because I do know that like it's coming, we're not going to mark it yet, even though that would be the same sensor data, because they're really trying to specify that it's for location information, right? Which we already do have marked. So activity on Google services, such as from your searches or places you label like home or work. If you're signed into your Google account and have web and app activity turned on, your activity on Google sites, apps, and services may be saved in your account's web and app activity. Some activity may include information about the general area you were in when you were using the Google service. When you search for something in a general area, your search will use an area of at least 3 square kilometers or expand until the area represents the locations of at least 1,000 people. This helps protect your privacy. In some cases, areas that have been searched from in the past may be used to estimate a relevant location from your search. For example, if you search for coffee shops while in Chelsea, Google may show results from Chelsea in future searches. You can view and control your web and activity at My Activity. Yeah, so 3 square kilometers definitely fits into coarse location. Now, GPS, granted, is definitely much more specific. GPS data, if I'm remembering right, is here? It might be 4th decimal place. I can't remember. But the activity based on Google services is considered coarse location. Basically the size of like a couple neighborhoods or maybe a big neighborhood. And then places you label like home or work, you may choose to save places to your Google account that are important to you, such as your home or your work. If you set your home or work addresses, they can be used to help you search for things more easily, such as getting directions or finding results closer to your home or work, and for ads. You can edit or delete your home and work addresses anytime in your Google account. So that one makes sense. So like if you're, looking for lunch and you're at work, it will search an area of at least 3 kilometers to search in that area. So that's good to know. Information about things near your device, such as Wi-Fi access points, cell towers, and Bluetooth-enabled devices. If you're using Google's location services on Android, we can improve the performance of apps that rely on your location, like Google Maps. If you use Google's location services, your device sends information to Google about its location, sensors like the accelerometer, and nearby cell towers and Wi-Fi access point like MAC address and signal strength. All of these things help determine your location. You can use your device settings to enable Google location services, and that definitely falls under these more specific areas. Bluetooth can be very precise when there's like a net of them. The types of location data we collect and how long we store it depends in part on your device and account settings. For example, you can turn your Android device's location on or off using the device's settings app. You can also turn on timeline if you want to create a private map of where you go with your signed-in devices. And if your web and app activity settings is enabled, your searches and other activity from Google services, which may also include location information, is saved to your Google account. You can learn more about how we use location information there. In some circumstances, Google also collects information from you from publicly accessible sources. For example, we may collect information that's publicly available online or from public sources to help train Google's AI models or build products and features like Google Translate, Gemini apps, and cloud AI capabilities. Or if your business's information appears on a website, we may index and display it on Google services. And then we'll get even more specific. For example, if your name appears in your local newspaper, Google search engine may index that article and display it to other people if they search for your name. We may also collect information about you from trusted partners such as directory services who provide us with business information to be displayed on Google services, marketing partners who provide us with information about potential customers of our business services, and security partners who help us provide information to protect against abuse. We also receive information from partners to provide advertising and research services on their behalf. So let's look at that. Protect against abuse. For example, information about security threats can help notify you if we think your account has been compromised, at which point we can take steps to protect your account. And then advertising and research services on their behalf. For example, merchants may upload data from their loyalty card programs so that they can include loyalty information in search or shopping results to better understand the performance of their ad campaigns. We only provide aggregated reports to advertisers that don't reveal information about individual people. We use various technologies to collect and store information, including cookies, pixel tags, local storage such as web browser storage, I did not know that was a thing, or application data caches, databases, and server logs. Let's look at all of these. Yay! Cookies. A cookie is a small file containing a string of characters that is sent to your computer when you visit a website. So we got to see that a little bit earlier. When you visit that site again, the cookie allows that site to recognize your browser. Cookies may store user preferences and other information. You can configure your browser to refuse all cookies or to indicate when a cookie is being sent. However, some website features or services may not function properly without cookies. Learn more about how Google uses cookies and how Google uses data, including cookies, when you use our partner sites or apps. That's a very accurate description, I think, of cookies. Then we have pixel tags. A pixel tag is a type of technology placed on a website or within the body of an email for the purpose of tracking certain activity, such as views of a website or when an email is opened. Pixel tags are often used in combination with cookies. So like if your email service provider, there are a couple of them out there, blocks images by default, this is what they're blocking. There's some services, I think PayPal uses this. When you get sent an invoice, PayPal will include a pixel tag on there to see if you've opened the email so they can report that back to the person who sent you the invoice. Browser web storage. Browser web storage enables websites to store data in a browser on a device. When used in local storage mode, it enables data to be stored across sessions. This makes data retrievable even after a browser has been closed or reopened. One technology that facilitates web storage is HTML5. Or application data cache. An application data cache is a data repository on a device. It can, for example, enable a web application to run without an internet connection and improve performance of the application by enabling faster loading of content. And then databases and server logs. Server logs, like most websites, our servers automatically record the page requests made when you visit our sites. These server logs typically include your web request, internet protocol address, browser type, browser language, date and location of your request, and one or more cookies that may uniquely identify your browser. A typical log entry for service for cars looks like this, and then they give you a little example. There's an IP address. This is the internet protocol address assigned to a user by the user's internet service provider. Depending on the user's service, a different address may be assigned to the users by the service provider each time they connect to the internet. So this is the date and time of the query. This is the requested URL, including the search query. This is the browser and operating system being used. So macOS and Chrome. And then right here is the unique cookie ID assigned to this particular computer the first time it visited Google. Cookies can be deleted by users. If the user has deleted the cookie from the computer since the last time they visited Google, then it will be the unique cookie ID assigned to the device the next time they visit Google from that particular device. Okay, we use data to build better services. We use the information we collect from all of our services for the following purposes: to provide our services. When you use information to deliver our services, like processing the terms you search for in order to return results, or help you share content by suggesting recipients for your context, so deliver our services. Examples of how we use your information to deliver our services include: we use the IP address assigned to your device to send you the data you requested, such as loading a YouTube video. We use unique identifiers stored in cookies on your device to help us authenticate you as the person who should have access to your Google account. Photos and videos you upload to Google Photos are used to help create albums, collages, and other creations that you can share. A flight confirmation email you received may be used to create a check-in button that appears in your Gmail. When you purchase services or physical goods from us, you may provide information like your shipping address or delivery instructions. We use this information for things like processing, fulfilling, and delivering your order, and to provide support in connection with the products or service you purchased. Maintain and improve our services. We may also use your information to ensure our services are working as intended, such as tracking outages and troubleshooting issues that you report to us. And we use your information to make improvements to our services. For example, understanding which search terms are most frequently misspelled helps us improve spell check. I wish that was more accurate. I haven't used spell check in a while, but whew, God, it needs to be better. Used across our services. Yeah, that's a bad example. Ensure our services are working as intended. For example, we continuously monitor our systems to look for problems. If we find something wrong with a specific feature, reviewing activity information collected before the problem started allows us to fix things more quickly. Again, that's just diagnostics data. And then make improvements to our services. For example, we use cookies to analyze how many people interact with our services, or how people interact with our services, and that analysis can help us build better products. For example, it may help us discover that it's taking people too long to complete a certain task, or that they have trouble finishing steps at all. We can then redesign that feature to improve the product for everyone. Again, I would consider that diagnostics. Develop new services. We use information we collect in existing services to help develop new ones. For example, understanding how people organized their photos in Picasa, Google's first Photos app, helps us design and launch Google Photos. Yeah, that makes sense. Provide personalized services, including content and ads. We use the information we collect to customize our services to you, including providing recommendations, personalized content, and customized search results. For example, when you're signed into your Google account and have web and app activity control enabled, you can get more relevant search results based on your previous searches and activity from other Google services. You can learn more here. You may also get custom search results even when you're signed out. If you don't want this level of search customization, you can search and browse privately or turn off signed out search personalization. For example, Security Checkup provides security tips adapted to how you use Google products, and depending on your available settings, Google Play could use information like the apps you've already installed and videos you've watched on YouTube to suggest new apps or that you might like. So it's worth keeping in mind the reason that Google's is so easy to read is because they have an enormous amount of public pressure to make that so. We saw it towards the beginning of the stream that they update their privacy policy quite regularly, but it's normally just for minor changes in language. And a lot of that has to do with all of this public pressure to make sure that their privacy policy is easy to read, because on a global scale, a lot of places really, really care that Google keeps this easy to read, which I think is like what's most surprising to like learn that for the first time. Like, wait, Google's privacy policy is like, it's long, but it's not hard to read. Like, we have definitely read way harder to read privacy policies on this channel. And I think that this is honestly a breath of fresh air. You know, again, as weird as that sounds, like they're a huge company. They have a lot of public pressure facing them. So it makes sense, you know. Depending on your settings, we may also show you personalized ads based on your interest and activity across Google services. Let's have a look at what personalized ads means. You may see personalized ads based on information from the advertiser. If you shopped on an advertiser's website, for example, they can use that visit information to show you ads. For example, if you search for mountain bikes, yeah, we just saw this, you may see ads for sports equipment on YouTube. You can control what information we use to show you ads by visiting your ad settings in My Ad Center. We don't show you personalized ads based on sensitive categories such as race, religion, sexual orientation, or health. So this was something that I actually got wrong in a previous video, and it is pinned in my corrections comment. Google does not show you ads based on information they have about your health patterns. So in the Delete Me video, when I mentioned that, I don't remember what thing. Yeah, I know it feels false, but from your direct health data from things like a Fitbit, because Google owns Fitbit, that information is not used for advertising purposes, which is good. There are definitely plenty of other things that they can infer information about you, but the data they collect directly is not used for it, which is worth, that's interesting. So when showing you personalized ads, we use topics that you think may be of interest to you based on your previous activity. For example, you may see ads for things like cooking and recipes or air travel. We don't use topics. Oh, so it's topic categories. So like they don't show ads for race or religion or sexual orientation or health. That makes more sense. And we require the same from advertisers that use our services. Okay, that's more interesting. That's definitely different. And it's interesting because that does infer that they collect that data, but again, we will get to that in a little bit. We don't show you personalized ads based on your content from Drive, Gmail, or Photos. This was the thing that I got wrong. We do not share information that personally identifies you with advertisers. This is sort of what I was talking about, such as your name, email, unless you ask us to. For example, if you see an ad for a nearby flower shop and select tap to call, we'll connect your call and may share your phone number with the flower shop. So that's like an example where they would directly see it, right? And then there's the Ad Center where you can change a bunch of those settings. Measure performance. We use data for analytics and measurement to understand how our services are used. For example, we analyze data about your visits to sites to do things like optimize product design. We also use data about the ads you interact with, including the related search history, to help advertisers understand the performance of their ad campaigns. And then that's just to learn more. We use a variety of tools to do this, including ad analytics services. When you visit sites or use apps that use Google's ad or analytics services, those services may link information about your activity from that site or app with activity from the other sites or apps that use our services. That one's a little bit of a tongue twister, I'm not gonna lie. For example, a customer may want to use its Google Analytics data to create more relevant ads or to further analyze its traffic. Using our systems, data generated through Google Analytics may be linked to Google accounts by the Google Analytics customer and by Google to cookies and other technologies that are relevant to visits or other sites and apps. So I don't know whether I'm more clear about this, but like when you watching this stream right now, right, I can tell how many viewers I have. I can see the chat rate. I can see how many views I have. I can see the average view duration. So like there's like certain pieces of information that like I can gather about and infer about you based on your traffic that is shared with me as a YouTube personality. So I think that's kind of what they're getting at there, measuring performance. And again, I would consider that just usage data. to communicate with you. We use information we collect, like your email address, to interact with you directly. For example, we may send you a notification if we detect suspicious activity, like an attempt to sign into your Google account from an unusual location. Or we may let you know about an upcoming changes or improvements to our services. And if you contact Google, we'll keep a record of your request in order to help solve any issues you might be facing. We'll count that as user content. Protect Google, our users, and the public. Ooh, the public. We love the public. We use information to help improve our safety and reliability for our services. This includes detecting, preventing, and responding to fraud, abuse, security risks, and technical issues that could harm Google, our users, or the public. All right, let's look at this. Ooh, look at this. Here's some good stuff. Okay, some examples of how we use your information to keep our services safe and reliable include collecting and analyzing IP addresses and cookie data to protect against automated abuse. This abuse takes many forms, such as sending spam to Gmail users, stealing money from advertisers by fraudulently clicking on ads. Ooh, wait a minute. Does that mean that ad nauseum is technically fraud? That's interesting. I've never considered that that's... Oh, I guess it's not stealing money from advertisers, so maybe it's different. But I mean, it is like clicking on ads and not presenting them, so that's interesting. I wonder if that is against TOS. Or censoring content by launching a denial of service attack, or DDoS attack. Distributed denial of service attack, sorry. And then the last account activity feature in Gmail can help you find out if and when someone accessed your email account without your knowledge. This information shows information about the recent activity in Gmail, such as the IP address that accessed your mail and the associated location, date. Oh, it worked! It played the little song too. I'm so excited. Thank you. Oh yeah. Okay, let's look at the public. For example, we process information about requests to remove content. Oh yeah. This is interesting. I've actually used this before. So for example, we process information about requests to remove content from our services under Google's content removal policies and or applicable laws to assess the request. God, brain is just fried there. And to ensure transparency, improve accountability, and prevent abuse and fraud in these practices. So yeah, you can request information be deleted from Google search results if you didn't know. If you have publicly facing information about you, you can do it that way too, which is pretty handy. I will admit, doing it from the sources directly is going to be more reliable than Google. Just keep that in mind. So like if it is a data broker showing information about you, you should go through that data broker first. Because they're going to be way better at actually getting that information removed. Again, most data brokers will just comply. They do not want to deal with it. Again, if you see your information in Google's, try to go through that result first before going through Google, because Google will like adapt the result accordingly. And that's also just going to like last longer. Also, I didn't mention this in the data deletion services video because I didn't really think about it at the time. The perk to deleting the information yourself is that if you change your behaviors on how you use the internet, you're more cautious about who you're sharing information with. You start using email aliases, things like that. It's going to make that data harder to gain again, whereas the services that offer those data deletion services, the data deletion services like Delete Me and Incogni and Aura and all of these other ones don't do that. They don't change your behavior. They just take your money and continuously delete it because of course the data brokers are going to get it back because you didn't change your behavior, right? So the perk to doing it yourself is that you're more likely to change your behavior moving forward, right? That's what lasts longer and is free. I didn't mention that in the video because it did not cross my mind at the time, which was like a year ago, to be fair. I've learned a lot since then. But I just figured y'all would appreciate that little tidbit of information since it's relevant to this particular point. We use different technologies to process your information for these purposes. We use automated systems that analyze your content to provide you with things like customized search results, personalized ads, or other features tailored to you on how you use our services, and we analyze your content to help us detect abuse such as spam, malware, and illegal content. We use algorithms to recognize patterns in data. For example, Google Translates help people communicate across languages by detecting common language patterns and phrases you ask and translate. So let's do the detect abuse. When we detect spam, malware, or illegal content and other forms of abuse on our systems in violation of our policies, we may disable your account or take other appropriate action. In certain circumstances, we may also report the violation to appropriate authorities. And then algorithms, a process of set rules followed by a computer performing problem-solving operations. Classic definition. We may use the information we collect across our services and across your devices for the purposes described above. For example, depending on your available settings, if you watch videos of guitar players on YouTube, you might see an ad for guitar lessons on a site that uses our ad products. Depending on your account settings, your activity on other sites and apps may be associated with your personal information in order to improve Google services and the ads deliverable by Google. So let's have a quick look at those. So depending on your available settings, some examples of how we use the information we collect across our services include when you're signed into your Google account and search on Google, we can see the results from the public web along with the relevant information of the contents you have in other Google products like Google Gmail or Google Calendar. This can include things like the status of upcoming flights, restaurant, or hotel reservations, or your photos. If you have communicated with someone via Gmail and want to add them to a Google Doc or an event in Google Calendar, Google makes it easy to do so by auto-completing their email address when you start to type their name. This feature makes it easier to share things with people you know. The Google app can use data that you have stored in other Google products to show you personalized content depending on your settings. For example, if you have searches stored in your web and app activity, the Google app can show you news articles and other information about your interests, like sports scores, based on your activity. If you connect your Google account to your Google Home, you can manage your information and get things done through the Google Assistant. For example, you can add events to your Google Calendar or get your schedule for the day, ask for status updates on your upcoming flight, or send in information like driving directions to your phone. If you're a user in the European Union, the decisions you make on linking services will affect how certain Google services can use the data across our services. The activity might come from your use of Google services, like syncing your account with Chrome or your visits to sites and apps that partner with Google. Many websites and app partners with Google to improve the content and services. For example, a website might use our advertising services like AdSense or analytics tools like Google Analytics, or it might embed other content such as videos from YouTube. These services may share information about your activity with Google, and depending on your account settings and the product's use, for instance, when a partner uses Google Analytics in conjunction with our advertising services, this data may be associated with your personal information. Learn more about how Google uses data when you use our partners' sites or apps. Other users already have your email address or other information that identifies you. We may show them publicly visible Google account information, such as your name and photo. This helps people identify an email coming from you, for example. Technically, that counts as sharing data, because they're sharing information, your contact info and user content. Your privacy controls. You have choices regarding the information we collect and how it's used. This section describes key controls for managing your privacy across our services. You can also visit the Privacy Checkup, which provides an opportunity to review and adjust important privacy settings. In addition to these tools, we also offer specific privacy settings in our products. You can learn more in our product privacy guide. And of course, those are two things that, like, look at this. This is nice, right? They actually have a guide on this. And these are actually updated. This was updated 2 days ago. Oh, so after May 19th, 2026, you can no longer access your Fitbit within your Fitbit account. That's interesting. So you'll need to use a Google account for them. Interesting. Now you know that if you have a Fitbit. And then they got a nice link to that privacy checkup. Once again, they continue to present that to us, which I love. They make it very easy for you to read something and then change it if you don't like it. Again, very cool from a transparency angle, at least. Let's see here. Managing, reviewing, and updating your information. When you're signed in, you can always review and update information by visiting the services you use. For example, Photos and Drive are both designed to help you manage specific types of content you saved with Google. We've also built a place for you to review and control information saved in your Google account. Your Google account includes privacy controls, activity controls. Decide what types of activity you'd like saved in your account. For example, if you have YouTube history turned on, the videos you watch and the things you search for are saved in your account so you can get better recommendations and remember where you left off. If you have web and app activity turned on, your searches and activity from other Google services are saved in your account so you can get more personalized experience, like faster searches and more helpful app and content recommendations. Web and app activity also have a subsetting that lets you control whether some information about your activity on other sites, apps, and devices that use Google services, such as apps you install and use on Android, is saved in your Google account and can be used to improve Google services, and you can change that there. Again, kind of interesting that they do just let you change that. Ad settings. Manage your preferences about the ads shown to you on Google and others and on sites that partner with Google to show ads. You can modify your interests, choose whether your personal information is used to make ads more relevant to you, and turn on or off certain advertising services. This is interesting. So this is something that I'm going to be talking about in a main channel video eventually. But you can just change your preferences and just lie about what you think is interesting, by the way. So like if you are actually getting things that are in there that are relevant to you, you could just replace it with things that aren't relevant to you, therefore reducing the amount of data that is accurate about you. Data poisoning. It doesn't work for just AI. Fun fact about you. You can manage personal information in your Google account and control who can see it across Google services. Yep, that makes sense, like your contact information and stuff. Shared endorsements. Choose whether your name and photo appear next to your activity, like reviews and recommendations that appear in ads. I've never considered that, like, yeah, reviews would show information about you. That's interesting. Sites and apps that use Google services. Manage information that websites and apps using Google services, like Google Analytics, may share with Google when you visit or interact with their services. And then ways to review and update your information. Under My Activity, My Activity allows you to review and control data that's saved to your Google account. And when you're signed into and using Google services, like searches you've done or visits to Google Play, you can browse by date and by topic and delete part or all of your activity. Again, that's actually really cool that they give you that much precision in the information that is collected. Like, if you've never looked at this before, you definitely should. It is legitimately kind of interesting. And again, you can just delete giant chunks of it if you so wish. Google Dashboard. Google Dashboard allows you to manage information associated with specific products, and then your personal information, manage your contact information such as your name, email, phone, and phone number. When you're signed out, you can manage information associated with your browser or device, including signed out search personalization. Choose whether your search activity is used to offer more relevant results and recommendations. YouTube settings. Pause and delete your YouTube search history and your YouTube watch history. And then ad settings. Manage your preferences about the ads shown to you on Google and on sites and apps that partner with Google to show ads. All of this activity stuff, if you just go to google.com, jump into that privacy policy, it is right at the very top. It's seriously fantastic. And changing these things does change how Google shows you information, right? If you turn off watch history and delete everything and then turn it back on, you basically get a brand new algorithm on YouTube. Right? If you have the perfect algorithm on YouTube and you do not want it to change, you're getting recommended the most perfect videos ever, you can pause your watch history and it will just not add anything new and you will just have that perfect algorithm for a little bit, which is a really cool hack if you didn't know. If you also watched a video and you realized that it destroyed your algorithm, you can go into your watch history and remove just that video that very clearly destroyed it. Like when you watch a video that's like a movie clip and then you're suddenly getting recommended hundreds of movie clips even though you just wanted to see the one movie clip. You can just delete that one movie clip that you watched. And it works. Like it's really cool. Like you can actually see how these things are just based on that data and they do let you actually delete it. It's really nice. Okay, and then exporting, removing, and deleting your information. You can export a copy of content in your Google account if you want to back up or use it with services outside of Google. And then they have a nice, big, stinky, beautiful link there. That is, by far, the most interesting, direct way to see how a service views you as an individual, right? You can see exactly what data they have on you and what data could be potentially breached in the event of a data breach, right? Any service that offers to export your data, which they all do, You should absolutely do it because it really gives you an enormous amount of insight as to what data exists with that service. To delete your information, you can delete content from specific Google services like we talked about. Search for and then delete specific items from your account using My Activity. Again, we also talked about that. Delete specific Google products, including information associated with those products. So like, for example, I signed into Google with OBS, right? Because I'm streaming to you right now. So I can just say, actually, you know what? I don't want OBS to have that information anymore. I can do that through Google, not OBS. So again, they actually do have an enormous amount of precision on that end. And then you can delete your account entirely. If you're a YouTuber, be careful with that one. Speaking from experience, as someone who deleted his channel last year, just heads up. And then inactive account manager allows you to give someone else access to parts of your Google account in case you're unexpectedly unable to use your account. And finally, you can also request to remove content from specific Google services based on applicable laws and our policies. There are other ways to control information Google collects, whether you're signed into a Google account, whether or not you're signed into a Google account, including browser settings. For example, you can configure your browser to indicate when Google has set a cookie in your browser. We can also, I think this is the same definition as before. Yep. And then you can also configure your browser to block all cookies from a specific domain or by all domains. This, by the way, big hack. I love that they literally include one of the best hacks out there right in their privacy policy. If you use Firefox and you tell it to clear all cookies every time you close the browser, but there's like one website that you trust to retain that cookie, you can just say, oh yeah, keep that cookie, but delete everything else. It's so cool. I love that. But remember that services rely on cookies. Our services rely on cookies to function properly. Of course, that's true, right? For example, we use a cookie called LDCS that makes it possible for you to open many Google Docs in one browser. Oh, see, that's interesting. Look, they literally explain how that cookie works. Isn't that cool? Who does that? Blocking this cookie would prevent Google Docs from working as expected. So they literally define how that works. That's so cool. Device level settings. Your device may have controls that determine what information we collect. For example, you can modify location settings on your Android device. Sharing your information. When you share your information, many of our services let you share information with other people, and you have control over how you share. For example, you can share videos on YouTube publicly, or you can decide to keep those videos private. That is true. Like, for example, I am sharing this stream right now, so that would count as user content, right? You are watching me share this publicly. When you share information publicly, your content may become accessible through search engines, including Google Search. Right. I'm sure if you searched for privacy policies explained on Google, this stream would potentially come up. I don't know that it actually would. Let's test it. Privacy policies explained. I'm not even a little bit in the top results for that one. Ooh, man. That's fair. Listen, it's a smaller channel. I get it. Reject convenience. That pops up. There I am. Look at that. Look at that fancy little feller. What a nice young man. When you're signed in and interact with some Google services, like leaving comments on a YouTube video, or everybody here in the chat, say hi, your name and photo appear next to your activity. We may also display this information in ads depending on your shared endorsement settings. When Google shares your information, we do not share your personal information with companies, organizations, or individuals outside of Google, except in the following cases. With your consent, we'll share your personal information outside of Google when we have your consent. For example, if you use Google Home to make a reservation through a booking service, we'll get your permission before sharing your name and phone number with that restaurant. We also provide you with controls to review and manage third-party apps and sites. You have given your access to your data in your Google account. We will ask for your explicit consent to share any sensitive personal information. Okay, so technically, they are capable of sharing sensitive personal information, which does imply that they do collect it. So we will be marking that off as both collected and potentially shared. Again, we do assume worst case scenario with the privacy visualizer, right? And that's going to be anything containing to topics such as medical facts. Oh, medical facts. There we go. There's our health one, right? I knew it was somewhere hidden in there. Medical facts, racial or ethnic origins, political or religious beliefs, or sexuality. Great. So that's all in there. With domain administrators, okay, this section is normally something I would skip over, but it is super, super relevant if you have used let's say you go to a school that offers you a Google account, right? If you're in college, high school, whatever, right? Domain administrators is who that data is shared with, right? I used to be a domain administrator for a school district. I got to see everything that kids were doing on their devices. That is just how this works, okay? So we're going to go over this section because it is relevant to a lot of people, whether you know it or not. So if your account is managed by a school, by a workplace, anything like that, this information is relevant. And again, I normally wouldn't read this, but Google is such a huge entity that it is, I think, relevant to a lot of people. If you're a student or work for an organization that uses Google services, your domain administrator and resellers who manage your account will have access to your Google account. They may be able to. And when they say maybe, it is like they definitely are capable of seeing this information. Access and retain information stored in your account, like your email. View statistics regarding your account, like how many apps you install. Change your account password, suspend or terminate your account access, receive your account information in order to satisfy applicable law, regulation, legal process, or enforceable governmental request, or restrict your ability to delete or edit your information on your privacy settings. So for example, if a school district gives you an email address and it has just like a standard, default picture and they don't let you edit that, that's why, right? This definitely doesn't fully describe, I think, the gravity of like anything you do on a school account can be seen by somebody, which is like by design, admittedly. When schools have kids that are, sending death threats to each other via Google Docs, that stuff has to be properly reported and properly addressed. So like it makes sense that like managed accounts have access to those things. But I think it's really worth calling out in a public space like this, because if you are somebody that is using those accounts and you didn't ever think about that, now you know. Please do not share sensitive information. Like, I only learned about the stuff when I became a domain administrator, right? And I was like, oh my God. So please keep in mind that there's definitely somebody looking at this, all of this information. They're not constantly looking, right? Like, keep that in mind. There's not just some guy in a room that's just like, oh, let me look at everything, right? What's happening is that if you do something that triggers a red flag, or if a teacher is like, hey, I need more information about this incident or whatever, they can look at that information. So it doesn't matter what device it's on, it is an account-based thing. So if you signed into your school account on a personal device, they still have access to anything that is related to that account. So if you signed into YouTube and you were leaving a bunch of comments, that would be traceable if it was tied to that specific account. It would be weird for a school account to allow you to have YouTube. I guess if it's a college, maybe, I don't know. But because they can change that. Yeah, they can edit which things you have access to. I know a lot of universities offer email addresses. It's this. So keep that in mind. For external processing, we provide personal information to our affiliates and other trusted businesses or persons to process it for us, based on our instructions and in compliance with our privacy policy and any other appropriate confidentiality and security measures. For example, we use service providers to help operate our data centers, deliver our products and services, and improve our internal business processes, and offer additional support to customers and users. We also use service providers to help review YouTube video content for public safety and analyze and listen for samples of saved user audio to help improve Google's audio recognition technologies. It never registered to me that Google's copyright system could just be a third party. That's never crossed my mind. Of course that's the case. The logs are ridiculous for those accounts. And like that's true for managed Apple accounts, Microsoft accounts, basically anything that is provided to you by a workplace or a school or anything is completely trackable by the people that gave it to you. An affiliate is an entity that belongs to the Google group of companies, including the following companies that provide consumer services in the EU. Google Ireland Limited. This is something we're going to look into eventually. I am so curious about why there's so many public entities like Google in or Meta in Ireland. I just think it's interesting. Google Commerce Limited, Google Payment Corporation, and Google Dialer Incorporated, learning more about companies providing businesses services in the EU. I don't live in the EU, so I'm not going to look at that, but you could do it. For legal reasons, we will share personal information outside of Google if we have good faith belief that disclosure of that information is reasonably necessary to respond to any applicable law, regulation, legal process, or enforceable governmental request. We share information about the number and type of requests we receive from government in our transparency report. So remember how Proton had a big stinky transparency report and how they kept bragging about that? Look at this. Google has the same thing, and it's very detailed. Look at this. If Google's known for anything, it's data. They let you have it all. Isn't that nice? Again, I cannot emphasize enough how bad Proton's privacy policy is when compared to this. Again, not necessarily the contents, but how it's written. Obviously, we're checking off way more boxes here, right? Like, this is definitely worse. But the contents of it, we understand this way better. And then that legal process, let's look at this. Like any other technology and communications company, Google regularly receives requests from governments and courts around the world to disclose user data. Respect for the privacy and security of our data you store with Google underpins our approach to complying with these legal requests. Our legal team reviews each and every request, regardless of type, and we frequently push back when a request appears to be overly broad and doesn't follow the correct process. Enforceable application of terms of service, including investigation and potential violations, detect, prevent, and otherwise address fraud, security, or other technical issues, and protect against harm to the rights, property, or safety of Google, our users, or the public, and then our users, for example, to prevent abuse and increase transparency and accountability over our online content moderation practices. Google shares data about requests for removal of the content from our services with Lumen, which collects and analyzes the requests to facilitate research to help internet users understand their rights. Ireland has extremely low corporate tax, and that's why a lot of companies... Oh. Is that... that's dumb. That's good to know. That's going to make that a lot easier to look into. We may share non-personally identifiable information publicly and with our partners, like publishers, advertisers, developers, or rights holders. For example, we share information publicly to show trends about the general use of our services, and we also allow specific partners to collect information from your browser or device for advertising and measurement purposes using their own cookies or similar technologies. Okay, let's look at what that is. Non-personally identifiable information. This is information that is recorded about users that no longer reflects references of individually identifiable users. So that would be things like usage data, probably diagnostics too, because they do specify. Here, let's look at like the trends. When lots of people start searching for something, it can provide useful information about particular trends at that time. Google Trends sample Google web searches and can estimate the popularity of searches over a certain period of time and shares those results publicly in aggregated terms. And then specific partners. For example, we allow YouTube creators and advertisers to work with measurement companies to learn about the audience of their YouTube videos or ads using cookies or similar technologies. Another example is merchants on our shopping pages who use cookies to understand how many different people see their products and listings. Learn more about these partners and how they use that information. Watching this stream, I can just see a graph, right? That's usage data. I can't identify you directly, but I can see that there are 57 people watching right now. Probably have to mark off everything realistically because of the law stuff. Yeah, there's going to be a more detailed example of the CCPA version is always the best one to look at to like properly fill this out. So we'll get there. If Google is involved in a merger, acquisition, or sale of assets, we'll continue to ensure the confidentiality of your personal information and give affected users notice before personal information is transferred or becomes subject to a different privacy policy. I like that. That's good. Keeping your information secure. This section matters a lot to me. Just so you're aware. Security matters a lot with privacy. We build security into our services and to protect your information. All Google products are built with strong security features that continuously protect your information. The insights we gain from maintaining our services help us detect and automatically block security threats from ever reaching you. If we do detect something risky that we think you should know about, we'll notify you and help guide you through the steps to better stay protected. We work hard to protect you and Google from unauthorized access, alteration, disclosure, or destruction of information we hold, including we use encryption to keep your data private while in transit. We offer a range of security features like safe browsing, security checkup, and two-step verification to protect your account. Let's see, what requirements do third parties agree to acquire non-personalized data? We can look at that here in a minute. That is actually a good question. I think it's through user consent, right? Like when you link up OBS to your YouTube account, it specifically asks, hey, do you grant access to OBS to manage your YouTube account? And then it lists off what kind of information would be shared in that. Yeah, data encryption in transit, but they don't mention it at rest. I mean, that could just be like a function of the internet, HTTPS. So I don't know that that's that interesting. We offer a range of security features like safe browsing. We already read that one. We review our information collection, storage, and processing practices, including physical security measures to prevent unauthorized access to our systems. And we restrict access to personal Google information to employees, contractors, and agents who need that information in order to process it. Anyone with this access is subject to a strict contractual confidentiality obligations and may be disciplined or terminated if they fail to meet those obligations. Exporting and deleting your information. Oh my God, these are my favorite sections. You can export a copy of your information and delete it from your Google account at any time. You can export a copy of your content in your Google account if you want to back it up or use it with a service outside of Google. Export your data. Again, I cannot emphasize enough the best way to fully understand what data is there about you. Because think about it. This is information that Google just has on their servers somewhere, right? So in the event of a data breach, that's the data that could be breached, theoretically. Now, Google's a gigantic company and they do invest a lot of money in security to try to prevent that. But as we've seen time and time again, it's inevitable to an extent. And exactly, like Sauerkraut just mentioned, it is eye-opening data. There were recordings of my voice using Google Assistant from 2016 that were just sitting there. It was so weird. So I do greatly encourage you, check that out. It is the best button. And you should absolutely click this button because it's interesting. It gives you really, really concrete, tangible results of what is data collection. To delete information, you can delete your contents from specific Google services. Like we specified earlier, you can delete a blog from a blogger or a Google site when you own from a Google site. You can also delete reviews you've left on apps, games, and other content in the Play Store or comments on YouTube. Search and then delete specific items from your account using My Activity. Whoa! Thank you. And then you can delete your entire Google account. Again, if you're a YouTuber, please be careful with that button. Oh my God. Speaking from experience. Retaining your information. We retain the data we collect for different periods of time, depending on what it is and how we use it, and how you configure your settings. Some data you can delete whenever you like, such as your personal information or the content you upload, like photos and documents. You can also delete activity information saved in your account or choose to have it deleted automatically after a set period of time. That's cool. I like that. We'll keep this data in your Google account until you remove it or choose to have it removed. Other data is deleted or anonymized automatically after a set period of time, such as advertising data in server logs. That's a policy to advertising data. Whole other policy. That's cool. We'll see if I have the energy to look at that after this. We keep some data until you delete your Google account, such as information about how often you use our services, and some data we will retain for longer periods of time when necessary for legitimate business or legal purposes, such as security, fraud, and abuse prevention, or for financial record keeping. When you delete data, we follow a deletion process to make sure that your data is safely and completely removed from our servers and retained only in anonymized form. We try to ensure that our services protect information from accidental or malicious deletion. Because of this, there may be delays between when you delete something and when copies are deleted from our active backup systems. Google is used by almost everyone, so of course there's going to be significantly more attention on this policy. It's a side effect of just being a gigantic company. Meta's, weirdly enough, is also pretty easy to read. Oh yeah, when I accidentally deleted my Google account and my channel, I was so scared. There is a delay for when you delete something, which is actually helpful. You can read more about Google's data retention periods, including how long it takes us to delete your information. So they do actually give the periods of time. For example, we anonymize advertising data and server logs by removing part of the IP address after 9 months and cookie information after 18 months. That's weird. Compliance and cooperation with regulators. We regularly review this privacy policy to make sure that we process your information in ways that comply with it. I did mention Start Page in my previous video, but just so everybody is aware that is watching, I will no longer be recommending or endorsing any products ever again. There was one company that took advantage of that previous video that I made and made an ad out of it, and I'm very upset about it. I should have seen it coming. It's public information. It's in their right to do it. But I just hate being associated with advertising, and now I have been shoved into one, and I hate that. Can't do anything about it, really. So yeah, just so everybody is aware, moving forward, period, I will not be endorsing services. If you want recommendations for products or services, go to the Reject Convenience forum. Like, the community is going to be your best bet. You can go to rejectconvenience.com/forum. Ask the guys in here. They are a fantastic community. They want to help you find the right service for you. This includes things like Linux distros and everything. Like, seriously, these guys are great. Go there for recommendations on products and services, because I will not be that anymore. Like, I'm not giving companies that free advertising anymore. I don't want to be paid. I don't want to be an ad, period, right? That's all it boils down to. And I'm really, really annoyed about that whole thing. Let's go to the data transfers. We maintain servers around the world, and your information may be processed on servers located outside of the country where you live. Data protection laws vary among these countries, with some providing more protection than others. Regardless of where your information is processed, we apply the same protections described in this privacy policy. We also comply with certain legal frameworks relating to transfer of data. Servers around the world, for example, we operate data centers located around the world to help us keep our products continuously available for users. Okay, that was not a helpful description. When we receive formal written complaints, we respond by contacting the person who made the complaint. We work with the appropriate regulatory authorities, including local data protection authorities, to resolve any complaints regarding to the transfer of your data that we cannot resolve with you directly. U.S. state law requirements. Some U.S. state privacy laws require specific disclosures. Look at all these. They keep the list updated. Look at all these winner states. These states rock. If you live in one of these states, don't specify that you do, because that's directly identifiable information, but give a clapping emoji, because that doesn't identify specifically which state you live in. So yeah, California, Virginia, Colorado, Connecticut, Utah, Washington, Nevada, Florida, Texas, Oregon, Montana, New Jersey, New Hampshire, Nebraska, Iowa, Delaware, Tennessee, Minnesota, Maryland, Indiana, Kentucky, and Rhode Island. My goodness, what a list of heroes. JK, some of them are worse than others, like Utah's Consumer Privacy Act. It's not that good, but it counts. It's there. That's something. We'll take something over nothing. The rest of the United States. Okay, this privacy policy is designed to help you understand how Google handles your information. We explain the categories of information Google collects and the sources of that information in Information Google Collects. We already read that. We explain the purposes of which Google collects and uses information and why Google collects data. We already looked at that. We explain when Google may disclose information and sharing information. Google does not sell your personal information. That may be surprising to you. Google also does not share your personal information, as is the term that is defined in the CCPA. Now, the reason that we marked off these ones was because it's information you can share. Isn't that interesting? Who expected that? For clarity, the CCPA has the most strict definition of the term sale in the United States. Somebody did ask me recently why I don't use the GDPR as the benchmark. The answer is I'm not well versed in that yet because I don't live there, and I'm getting there. I'm learning along with you guys, I promise. But yeah, Google does not sell your personal information. How about that? We explain how Google retains information in retaining your information. You can also learn about how Google anonymizes data. That's a great point, Mint. That's the same thing that happened with Amazon, right? They don't need to sell it because they have all of it. They are an advertising company. They are the source of the data, right? Like, they don't need to sell it. As described there, when Google anonymizes data to protect your privacy, we maintain policies and technical measures that avoid re-identifying that information. U.S. state privacy laws also provide the right to request information about how Google collects, uses, and discloses your information. And they give you the right to access your information, and sometimes in a portable format, correct your information, and to request that Google delete that information. Many of these laws also provide the right to opt out of certain forms of profiling and targeted advertising. They also provide the right not to discriminate against or for exercising these privacy rights. Additionally, the CCPA treats certain kinds of information like health data as sensitive, and when users provide this information, Google only uses it for purposes permitted by the CCPA, like to provide services that are requested by and expected by our users. So like a smartwatch. The Washington My Health Data Act and the Nevada Senate Bill 370 provide specific rights in addition to those that above that apply to health information. When you provide health information subject to these laws, Google processes it with your consent, which you may withdraw or is otherwise permitted by these laws. We describe the choices that you have to manage your privacy across Google's services and your privacy controls. These tools allow you to access, review, update, and delete your information, as well as export and download a copy of it. You may also control what information we use to show you ads. Turn off personalized ads by visiting My Ad Center. When you use these tools, we'll validate your request by verifying that you're signed into your Google account. If you have questions or requests related to your rights under U.S. state privacy laws, you or an authorized agent can contact Google. If you disagree with the decision of your request, you can ask Google to reconsider it by responding to our email. We provide more information on Google's handling of CCPA requests. Some U.S. state privacy laws also require a description of data practices in specific categories. This is what we were looking for. This table uses these categories to organize them in information in this privacy policy. So this is information that is collected. Now, again, we've marked everything as collected, so this isn't going to reveal anything that new, but let's go through it anyway. Identifiers and similar information, such as your name, password, phone number, an address, as well as unique identifiers tied to the browser, application, device you're using. Some Google services like YouTube Studio provide the option to submit a valid ID, such as a passport or driver's license, to verify your identity to use additional features. That is true. I did have to give Google my identification because I'm a YouTuber. Had to do it. This is true in basically every policy we've ever read. Once we get to the CCPA version of a privacy policy, things become way more apparent, and it's seemingly by design that it's always at the bottom. That said, with the information that was collected here, there's no surprises in here. We did read about all of this previously in the stream. Demographic information such as your age, gender, language, like they mentioned that stuff earlier, right? To use optional features like YouTube creator demographics, you can also provide additional information like your gender identity or race and ethnicity. So that one was one that like we didn't actually directly know, but we were inferred it by other sources. So commercial information such as your payment information and history of purchases. So we got those two right there. Biometric information if you choose to provide it, such as fingerprints in Google's product development studies. So that was the one that was really going to lean into the health one that I mentioned earlier, way earlier. Internet network and other activity information, such as your search terms, got that. Views and interactions with content and ads, usage data, Chrome browsing history you've synced with your Google account, information about the interactions with your apps, browsers, or devices, like your IP address, crash reports, and system activity. So again, usage data and diagnostics, and activity on third-party sites and apps that use our services. You can review and control your activity stored in your Google account in that little link there. We got geolocation data. This such as determined by GPS, IP address, and others from sensors on or around your device. So like tracking thingies. I know the biometric thing. It's so vague, and it's like the only time they mention it. It's so weird. We do get health information more specifically later, but yeah, I don't know what that means, but it's there. We count it. Depending on these settings, this may include precise location data. For example, GPS data for Android features like navigation or finding your phone. So it's the finding your phone that like gets super precise, as we can see here. Audio, electronic, visual, and similar information such as voice and audio information. This one's interesting. For example, you can choose. So yeah, we read this one earlier, but basically when you train your Google Home or whatever, Google Assistant, to recognize your voice, they store that recording. When you request your data, that recording is there. It's crazy. Communications data, such as emails, if you use our services to send or receive messages. We already looked at that definition as well. Health information, if you choose to provide it, such as your medical history, vital signs, and health metrics like blood glucose levels, and other similar information related to your physical or mental health in the course of using Google services that offer related features such as Google Health Studies app, Fitbit, or Pixel devices. Similar information related to your health if you use fitness products and apps we offer such as Fitbit, Pixel Watch, Nest, or Google Fit, like your height and weight. We also collect information from these apps and devices such as your sleep patterns, heart rate, skin temperature, calories burned, and step taken. So again, health data definitely is optionally collected, but again, worst case scenario, so definitely counting it. Professional, employment, and education information, such as information you provide that is maintained through an organization using Google services which you study or work. That one's just universal. And then other information you create or provide, such as the content you create, upload, or receive, like photos, videos, or emails, docs, and spreadsheets. Google Dashboards allows you to manage information associated with specific products and inferences drawn from you from above, like your ad interest categories. Okay, so the business purposes for what information may be used or disclosed. So this is the stuff that they share and why. So protecting against security threats, abuse, and illegal activity. Google uses and may disclose information to detect, prevent, and respond to security incidents. For example, protecting against malicious, deceptive, fraudulent, or illegal activity. For example, to protect our services, Google may receive or disclose information about IP addresses that malicious actors may have compromised. So that's going to be identifiers and location technically. Auditing and measurement. Google uses information for analytics and measurement to understand how services are used, as well as to fulfill obligations to our partners like publishers, advertisers, developers, or rights holders. We may disclose non-personally identifiable information publicly and with those partners, including for auditing purposes. We're going to call that other data. That kind of fits into usage data, though. That's interesting. Honestly, that's not a bad idea. Isn't NeoFetch not a thing anymore? What's the new one? I know there's like 1,000 alternatives. I can't remember. Fast Fetch, thank you. Yep. Oh, we got some Linux nerds in the chat. I love you guys. Let's see. Maintaining our services. Google uses information to ensure our services are working as intended, such as tracking outages or troubleshooting bugs or other issues that you report to us. Research and development. Google uses information to provide our services to develop new products, features, and technologies that benefit our users and the public. For example, we use publicly available information to help train Google's AI models. And build products and features like Google Translate, Gemini apps, or cloud AI capabilities. Can we get an ugh in the chat? Use of service providers. Google shares information with service providers to perform services on our behalf in compliance with their privacy policy and other appropriate confidentiality and security measures. For example, we may rely on service providers to help provide customer support. Customer support would count as user content. We already got that. Advertising. Google processes information to provide you advertising, including online identifiers, browsing, and search activity. Okay. And information about your location and interactions with advertisements. This keeps Google services and many of the websites you use free of charge. You can control which information is in there. We use to show you ads by visiting your ad center. So that's, they process it for advertising, but then this just gets chunked into categories. So I don't know if that counts as shared. I don't think I'm going to count it because it's processed. And then legal reasons. Google also uses information to satisfy applicable laws or regulations and discloses information in response to legal process or enforceable government requests, including law enforcement. We provide information about the number of types of requests in our transparency report. Parties with whom information may be disclosed. Other people who you choose to share information with, like docs and photos, videos or comments on YouTube, or health information through Fitbit's social features. Why is that a thing? And third-party applications. Third parties with your consent, such as services that integrate with Google services. You can review and manage third-party apps with access to your data in your Google account. See more about when Google shares your information. Service providers, trusted businesses, or persons that process information on Google's behalf based on our instructions and in compliance with their privacy policy and any other appropriate confidentiality and security measures. Domain administrators. This is like a workplace or a school that gave you a Google account. If you work or study at an organization that uses Google services. Law enforcement or other third parties, the legal reasons described in sharing information. Okay. About this policy, when this policy applies. This policy applies to all of the services offered by Google LLC and its affiliates, including YouTube, Android, and services offered on third-party sites, such as advertising services. This privacy policy does not apply to services that have separate privacy policies that do not incorporate into this privacy policy. Yeah, we already saw that. This privacy policy does not apply to the information practices of other companies or organizations that advertise their services, or services that offered by other company or individual, including products or sites they offer that may use Google services to which that privacy policy applies, or products or sites displayed to you in search results or linked from our services. Changes to this policy. We change this privacy policy from time to time, as we saw. We will not reduce your rights under this privacy policy without your explicit consent. Interesting. We will always indicate the date of the last changes were published, and we offer access to archived versions for your review. Again, if you missed the beginning of the stream, those archived versions also include comparisons. So you can see every single thing that changed it at a glance, which is amazing. Who does that? That's so cool. Like, unironically, that is an amazing thing that every company needs to do. That should be regulatory side. Like, this needs to happen with every privacy policy. I love this. If changes are significant, we'll provide a more prominent notice, including for certain services, email notification of privacy policy changes. And then these are the related privacy policy practices. These are the specific Google services. The following privacy notices provide additional information to some Google services, such as payments, Fiber, Gemini apps, Google Fi, Google Workspace for Education, Read Along, YouTube Kids, Google accounts managed with Family Link or children under 13, Family Link for Privacy Guide, and video and audio collection for children on the Google Assistant. Of course, that's a thing. If you're a member of an organization that uses Google Workspace or Google Cloud Platform, learn how these services collect and use your personal information from the Google Cloud Privacy Notice. Other use for resources. So we're not going to look at all of these because most people do not use those services. I think the main policy covers the things that most people use, like the people watching right now use YouTube. Other useful resources. The following links highlight useful resources for you to learn more about our practices and privacy settings. Your Google account is home to many of the settings you can use to manage your account. Privacy checkup. So these are all just the helpful little things. I know, like, it is weird. I actually do genuinely like Google's privacy policy. This is the easiest. Like, think about it. We just read that whole thing. Yes, it's been 2 hours, but I've also been distracted by chat, right? But, like, that was unironically the easiest privacy policy I have ever seen, period. Maybe the exception would be Signal, just due to how short that one is, but, like, honestly, this is one of the best privacy policies out there, and it should be a standard for other privacy policies. Truly. I actually unironically like this one. I do not like the content within it. Right, exactly. Like, this sucks. I hate this. But it is easy to read, and I very much appreciate that. And I think that if other companies did that, people wouldn't be so hesitant to just click agree and not read it, right? Like this one, I know none of, I mean, I certainly hadn't read it before I started this channel, right? But, like, truly, like, this was not that bad. So those of you that were here the whole time, Sauerkraut, I know you were here the entire time, not that bad, right? Thank you for stopping by, everybody. That was very fun. Next week, we'll look at a different privacy policy. I gotta get back to rendering. That's what this computer was made for. Cooking. Oh wait, where is it? There we go. I had to download GIS. It was crazy. I downloaded all of Florida. Anyways, see ya. Bye. I will not explain further.